Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Catalyzing Conversation. Catalyzing Conversations are really kind of one-on-one, two-on-one, in this case, four-on-four conversations about ideas that are going to be related to the upcoming Catalyzing the Future event. If you're just arriving here for the first time, Catalyzing the Future is a global online live streaming event, totally free to attend, that's going to be happening this Wednesday, September the 30th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be cross-disciplinary and have keynote interviews as well as 3 concurrent live streams of multiple panels happening throughout the day. It's going to be an amazing ecosystem of conversations with lots of insights and more things to fill up your notebook than you ever dreamed possible. As just one of those elements today, I'm really happy to welcome in my colleagues Alhir, as well as Hope and Donald Lovell. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the work that they do, which is wonderful in social entrepreneurship and technology and beyond. So without further ado, let me bring in the 3 of them into the channel. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Pleasure to be here.
It's so good to be with all 3 of you, and I'll say especially Donald and Hope. We're very, very grateful that you've made some time to catch up with us today.
We're happy to be able to join you, Cy and Todd. So thank you so much for the invitation and to have a conversation about something that's just so timely. This is just such a monumental moment for this conversation and your ecosystem of conversations.
You're very welcome. You're both very welcome. We'd love for you to kind of share about who you are, what you're all about, and kind of get the conversation started.
Donald, you want to?
Well, yeah, sure. Well, my name is Donald Lovell. And together, my wife Hope and I, we are Transformational Advisory Group. And basically, we help entrepreneurs achieve their goals of being business owners. And aside from that, I also do a little technology consulting, troubleshooting technical support, where we deal with small, medium-sized businesses and help them achieve their technology goals. Keep them up to status and doing what they need to do as far as utilizing technologies to its full capability.
Excellent. And Hope, do you want to elaborate on that? I mean, you have. I'm already in love with you, Hope, just based on your name. You know that already, so that's a given. But please tell us what you do. So please.
Yeah. Hey, look, I can't take much credit for the last name. I happen to marry into the whole love, so I don't know how it happened that I end up having Hope and Love in my name. I'm just going to figure just as something great to be done here. But yes. I think just to kind of piggyback on just some of our conversation, we were talking about our goal and our hope is to, 1, eliminate barriers to entrepreneurship, but then to take those individuals that we are working with and to help them to become conscious entrepreneurs and to eliminate any barriers to their success. So if that means knowledge base or understanding of how to build out their business model, it is our goal to help educate them and empower them at the same time.
Excellent. So and I love the reference to consciousness as you exactly just said it, Hope. If you look at the time that we're in now, do you feel like, that this is truly a trigger for us to have a heightened sense of consciousness at this point and really move forward in the win-win way that society and life needs?
Absolutely. So, quite clearly, there's many countries and many of us embrace a sense of kind of capitalism. And it's hard to be an entrepreneur and not really embrace and understand capitalism. And so that's why we said conscious entrepreneurs, because what we want people to think about is really not just a me versus them, but to really associate themselves as being part of an entire ecosystem and caring about that. So, and for you to feel like that, then you have to be conscious of the effects that your decisions and choices are having, not just on yourself, but on everyone in the entire ecosystem.
Very well said. And one of the things that struck me in some of our conversations very, very early on is, we talk about conscious capitalism as an idea, if you will. But when you say conscious entrepreneurials, at that point it individualizes it. It makes it very personal.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear more about your thinking, and Donald, Hope and Donald, your thinking around sort of those aspects in where we are in human history.
It's a personal choice. When you hear capitalism, again, it kind of makes you feel like it's a system that's bigger than you, and so you don't really associate it as your ability to having an impact.
Hmm.
But when you personalize it to say, I'm going to be a conscious entrepreneur, so now you're taking ownership of how your choices can have an impact, whether it's on your community, on your sphere of influence, whatever customer segments that you're trying to reach. What's going to be, you have to be very intentional now. What's going to be the impact that you're going to have on them?
So
Very well said.
I love the idea of the conscious entrepreneur. But
I can't hear them now.
oh, can you hear me?
I can't hear them.
Oh, 1 second there. I was just trying to help her out. Technically, we're getting some feedback. She can't hear. Give us a second there. Sorry about that.
No problem. Can you hear us now?
She can hear you now.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah. Plug your mic. Plug your microphone in again. Your headphone in.
Okay.
I get a little feedback there.
All right. Are you able to hear us, Hope?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. We're going to clear it up. So I was just saying, I love the idea of conscious entrepreneurship. As somebody who's owned my own business for the past 5 years, and have tried to get involved in my community and making a difference and sort of connecting others and getting them to opportunities, I get that from a personal standpoint.
Mhm.
But for the entrepreneur out there or the solopreneur out there that's thinking about like, well, wait, now I've got to connect to the rest of my community. I'm trying to run a business here. Like,
Mhm.
what do you say to them to maybe get them to change their mindset a little bit about their approach to entrepreneurship?
Oh, that's great, Todd, and that's just such a good question. Because again, people think social entrepreneurship, like, am I doing community service? It's, do I have to give stuff away? That's not what we're that's not what I'm trying to say. What we're going for is a level of intention to make sure that even in the decisions that you're making, they're made from a place of integrity, so that you're really sure that you're not causing harm. But the other place is that you can look at it to say, am I filling a community need? Am I filling a market? If we're looking at business terms, right? Am I filling a market need? And market and community can many times be interchangeable because it's all still a group of people. But even as we look at business, you look in terms of being very intentional to say, who's your target audience, right? Who's going to be even some of your key partners that you're going to go through to help you to even reach that target audience? Once you peel that back, as we talk about conscious entrepreneurship, is to say, how can I bring my product, my service to market and have the biggest impact? And impact is bigger than just profit. So that's what I'm saying. Consciousness, many times people think business, I want to make the most money possible. And not saying not make money, but is to have the biggest impact on whoever those targets, your customers, your team that's working with you, the biggest impact for good that you can have, go for it.
I think that's
I
amazing.
think sometimes with the being a conscious entrepreneur, it's important that you balance that too, because you're still a business owner. You're still in the business to make money, and so it's a matter of balancing that out. But at the same time, not doing things like some of the examples that we currently see out here, whereas you're doing things to make money at the detriment of others. And that's just
Hmm.
it becomes a morality thing. And sometimes, helping people to balance that morality and that not necessarily worrying about yourself first or just yourself only and having that balance that you're actually giving back, you're helping someone else grow at the same time that you're growing. It's key.
Very, I'm sorry, please go on, Todd.
No, no, I love that so much, and I relate it back to. I'm sure you're thinking about the same things, Sai. We just did another one of these events, catalyzing conversations with Jim Hamilton, who we were talking about the same kind of thing about product development, product management, and that idea of not, it's not just about making the profit. It's about not doing harm. It's about doing things that are good for the society, that makes such a big difference. And it's so good to hear you talking about that sort of in the context of the whole I think the ways that we've been trying to think of this. I love the sentiment. That's great.
It's very congruent. And actually, I want to add on to that and kind of get your perspectives, very respectfully, Donald and Hope, and likewise, Todd. There is a degree of consciousness, and when it manifests with intentionality. And, connecting those two is so powerful and so rich. And when people don't connect them, because you are still a business to be in business as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a degree of consciousness to be alive. You'd go out of business and you couldn't have the impact that you wanted to have. Where most people are challenged is they don't bring those together, and then they end up blaming capitalism, and capitalism becomes a lose-lose. So one philosophy, respectfully, that we've always embraced, and I say we being whoever embraces this, I know I do, I look for the win-win or the lose-lose. There is no win-lose because everybody suffers. So respectfully, I'd love your perspective on, do you see people giving capitalism a bad name because they're not bringing intentionality and consciousness together?
Yes, I do. I mean, it would almost, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that capitalism is wrong, but I know as we talk, there's conversations in America where you're seeing this whole research, the idea of socialism. And you can't ignore it because people are clearly telling you that there's a void, right? There's a need there. And to ignore it, it's almost like you're being unconscious and you're ignoring that there's people that there's a need. So where I would love to see, those of us who do embrace a sense of capitalism, right? Where we don't say, hey, be quiet, either, it's our way or the highway, but we say, how can we still feel the need? Like, how do you still feel the need of the people? And I always say that I look at individuals who are entrepreneurs almost like if we were a tribe, then you are essentially like the chief. And when you are the chief, then you have a responsibility to also be a provider. So you can't ignore the cries of the people and still see yourselves as a provider.
Yeah. The undertone of being an entrepreneur, and I love the way that you're describing it, Hope and Donald. The undertone of being entrepreneur is to take initiative. It isn't simply to be a passive recipient of something, but rather to contribute something. Radically different than what a lot of people, move toward.
Yes. Entrepreneurs are the people who see a need and they answer the call.
Yeah.
You answer the call, right? You're figuring out a way to either facilitate it, organize it, bring it to market, make sure you price it in a way, where you can make money, but that doesn't mean, of course, where it has to be full exploitation. And I think As we talk about conscious entrepreneurship, that's where we have to sort of self-regulate on, just because you seem like, man, this is go all the way. That's where I think the integrity piece comes in to say, just because it's possible, is it beneficial?
Right.
We even look at what we're living through right now. Part of the issues. Go ahead and mute yourself, Hope, so we can get feedback. Part of the issues is that we're seeing the uproar. We're seeing the disruption in the streets. Literally, we're seeing the results of people of to a certain extent capitalism not taking care of the people. You
Hmm.
can only go, great, you have a company, you work for the city, you get the contract, you're the shoe-in guy, you always get the contract, but you never give back to those communities that you're working in.
Yeah.
So you're just pulling those resources out. You can only do that for so long until before there's a breaking point where now we're here in this community, and you don't care about us. You haven't done anything for us. Do you have to? Technically, you don't have to, but it's good business
Hmm.
for you to do for those communities in which you work and live in. And so now you begin to see where I tell people all the time, you can only be the king for so long, sitting in a
Yep.
castle, eating nice steaks and lobster before the hungry people outside start banging on the gate because they're starving because you never took the time to give back to community gardening or
Yeah.
something of that nature. And so now, yes, they're gonna bring torches and try to break and burn your house down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate that, Donald, tremendously, because in many ways, the manifestation of what's here, the trigger might be COVID, but the manifestation of what's unfolding has been unconscious capitalism. And I'll say a lack of aware leaders in organizations. Awareness is fundamental as a word relative to consciousness. And I think we're seeing those dynamics play out. But I'm going to ask it ask a question slightly differently. Do you see this truly as an opportunity to wake up and make a difference at this point? And if we don't seize that opportunity, what might happen?
I absolutely. I mean, the very fact that we're having this conversation side means that there's an opportunity. And I was saying to you, this is not just a conference. I really believe that it's going to be a movement. And the fact that there's so much shaking and rumbling, it's saying this is our time. Like, if you're not woke, wake up, wake up. Like, this is it. Like, let's talk about it. Let's start having these conversations with our leaders, with our policymakers, entrepreneurs, from
Mhm.
solopreneurs to entrepreneurs who are leading, 1,000 employee organizations and large companies. Everyone needs to have that reflection point to say, where you take a moment and you look out and you're saying, am I doing the best that I can do? Could I do
Mhm.
more? That's this moment.
That's excellent. Yeah, please chime in, Donald.
No, I was just gonna say No, I was just gonna say we're definitely living in a moment where this will be in the history books, and this will be one of those situations. Well, where were you when this occurred, when this
Mhm.
went down? I mean, we've seen it in our own hometown where some things were going on, and they removed someone from the school board because of the insensitive nature of some of their comments, and it was very surprising to see the masses in the community really come out against what was said and what was done. And so that for me was really a wake up to, like, well, people are actually getting it.
Mhm.
But a lot of people don't, just like, being in IT, half my job is knowing the technology, but the majority of me is being that counselor, consoling people and preparing them for that change. Okay, you have to click this button on the right instead of the one on the left. And I even see it with what's going on right now, like the resistance to change. I see a lot of people that are waving certain flags right now. It's not because they support that person and think they're the best person ever. It's because they don't want to see change. They're
Mhm.
scared of that change. And so right now is an opportunity, especially I'm constantly, as I meet people and conversating, preaching to people, you've been thinking about that business idea? Now is the time, because now is where you're going to have those opportunities. Doors are currently open, or these doors are easier to open, and some of them you can just kick in right now to get yourself in there and take advantage. So yeah, we're definitely at a point where change is occurring as we see it. And it's almost like this is a when Apple first started. I really look at it as big as that. If you'd have bought that
Mhm.
Apple stock back when they were in Steve Jobs' garage or the other partner's garage,
Yeah.
you'd be sitting on top of the world right now. And I think that is one of the points that we're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually said the statement. I said, we're all people talk about managing change. Forget managing change. Now change, if you will, is managing us. So if you don't embrace it, and really look for that win-win, you're going to lose out on how you can truly have that conscious impact in the world. So really sincerely appreciate what you're saying. Forgive me, Todd, I'm dominating the conversation. I have two-sided question, if you will, and I'd love your insights, Donald and Hope, and likewise, Todd. What can we inspire in the young generation, if you will, kind of very much in the moment? How can we inspire the young generation, and guidance that you could offer us there? And likewise, as you look forward 5 years down the road, how do you bring that future look and inspirational point of view to the current generation? I'd love your insights.
So I'll be honest. I love young entrepreneurs. So I have been working for myself since I was 26 years old. And I think that young people in and of themselves in their youth have they don't mind taking on the risk. And they're not quite as stuck in their ways. So I would definitely empower them. I think, as Donald was saying, like if you ever considered being entrepreneurial, now is the time, and approach it in such a way that, of course, now you're not going to be the exploitative capitalist, right? But you're going to be the conscious entrepreneur, and you're going to go out and you're going to get good, wise advice from seasoned other seasoned entrepreneurs and professionals and experts to make sure that you take on this journey very intentionally. So, but if there's ever a time to go, now is the time to go, especially as we talk to, our younger people, our 20, our 30-year-olds, who are, maybe they're feeling like, oh, I want to take my show on the road. They've got a little extra time. This is the time to now be real intentional, plan it out, get your business model together, start talking to people, and go for it.
Excellent. Donald, would you like to add to that?
Definitely in one sense with, I want to sound like that old nagging guy, but you young folk need to listen. But, I mean, it's definitely with the current generation, I think there's a lot of opportunity, ability there. But just really taking it and getting your hands dirty. One of the things is, I always say you can lead the horse to water, can't make them drink. And a lot of times, and it was the same for as we were growing up as kids, it's really just making sure that you're taking advantage of all the opportunities and really seeing it ahead. You're in the moment, you're young, and you want to have fun and have a good time. But we grew up, you couldn't become a millionaire overnight because of YouTube, because of social media. So, I mean, to build a brand, to build a business is so simplistic now. Realistically, I mean, it still takes some work, and you gotta, just like with anything, you gotta stick with it. But it's like, why go work that 9 to 5? Why pump that 40 hours into another company? Now, granted, I definitely do believe going to work for somebody for a while, especially in the industry you're interested in, so you begin to learn. But after that, once you got the hang of it, man, you can turn the tables around for yourself.
So something that you had said, Donald, was kind of sticking with me. That idea of this being, and I'm going to paraphrase you. I mean, this is the time to play because of the crisis situation we're in right now. This is the time to be the next Apple. I love that notion that because we're at this point of crisis, that's kind of a space where, where it's like the business world or the community, the way of starting a business might have been very calcified for a while. Now it's opening up, and that's a time when energy and growth happens, when those kinds of stresses occur. I'm kind of wondering what, and this is related to the size question of sort of the young entrepreneur, but I guess for any entrepreneur, what tests would you maybe suggest that they apply to their thinking if they are thinking about starting a new business right now? How would you approach sitting down with somebody and who's an entrepreneur and says they have an idea for a product or a service? where do they go to get started?
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the biggest things is, sitting down, and really pen to pad, is where it begins. Um, with us, and as we're working on and doing our coaching and our mentoring, I mean, they can always go to tagforsuccess.com to reach out to us for assistance. But main thing is, one, looking at what you want to do. So let's say you decide, okay, I have these widgets I want to sell. It's really identifying, okay, well, who really wants your widgets? Is somebody else have a widget? Is the widget just like yours? Is there a niche market that you can focus on with your widget? Those are really some of the beginning initial questions to ask, or if you're looking at a service business, what service are you going to provide? Is there someone in your area or in your local geographical radius that's offering that? Do you have the time? Do you have the wherewithal? Because a lot of times we also find that we have these conversations, and I have them with serious. I was like, you know what? You're a great plumber, but you should stick to working for someone else because you don't currently have the wherewithal to be a business owner, to do that paperwork, to keep track, to do the research at night. You only want to work 40 hours. If you only want to work 40 hours, keep your day job. Because as a business owner, you're going to be doing now eventually you might, like Hope and I ourselves, we're trying to get ourselves down to a 3-day work week. That's what we're trying to, but it takes time to get there. And you got to have a lot of systems in place and a lot of automation and really a foolproof plan to do it. It can be done, but it's one of those things that, those are the first realistic questions that you have to have with yourself.
And yeah, I'll just piggyback on that, Todd. Kind of what Donald was saying, the first thing you really have to talk to people about is their mentality. And, I know, and I've worked with a lot of co-preneurs, so people who still per se have a 9 to 5, but they're looking at starting their business on the side. And one of the biggest things that you have to have that conversation about is one, so the whole principles of how owners operate and employees operate is very different, right? So owners, and when you're starting your own business, you're starting the foundation and the platform, and you're putting money in, right? So you're investing. Employees are not investors. So when you go and get that job, generally you're not paying anybody for that job, right? You're expecting something back. So the first thing I kind of talk to people about is, if you're thinking you're not going to put any money in, but you're going to get grants and everyone else is going to invest in your business and you'll just kind of reap all the rewards and just sit back. No, 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 no. That's not how it is. Not how it
Great.
Yep.
So you have to be willing to have some skin in the game. That's like number one, right? So start saving up your money. Don't quit your job just yet if you have not set aside some money to start this business. And the other part is just talking about mentality. It's the same thing. Just because you even work that business a year, you might not immediately start to be able to pull out money from that business, right? You have to reinvest, sow into it, sow your time, sow your talents. So again, very different from if you're coming from that employee mentality. So it starts with helping people get out of the employee mentality and get into the entrepreneur mentality of sort of investing, sowing, bringing money to the table, really having that gut check also in terms of if they want employees or how they're going to collaborate and work with people. Some folks are so scared to employ somebody. I mean, that's like one of the biggest hurdles that I see new entrepreneurs go through. Like, I don't know, like, and so that's when I start having that conversation about being the provider. That's probably one of the things. No one wants to be responsible for anyone else. But when you become an entrepreneur, whether they're your employee or your contractor, you are the responsible person. Like the buck stops with you.
And that's scary. It's scary for a lot of people. I worked with a guy like that for about a year and a half, and I think he lost sleep and was terrified all the time about being responsible for other people, even though we were totally okay with the risk as employees within the organization.
So it's just having those real kind of gut check conversations with people that to say, before you even start on this journey, are you willing to do this stuff? Because if you're not, and you step into business, a business can be a horrible taskmaster. Like if you don't approach this thing right, it will darn near kill you.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get paid. You don't get no PTO. You don't have an IRA. You don't have vacation days.
Why would anybody do this? Wait a minute.
That's the backside, that sometimes people don't talk about.
Of course.
You have tremendous wisdom. You're calling out so many specific things that I think really people need to take away from, especially now. I mean, I just want to kind of reference them, if you will. One is mentality and mindset. I mean, that is crucial. If you don't have the mentality, it truly is a shift in mentality to be an owner versus an employee, if you will. An owner, not an employer, an owner.
An owner.
Very exactly, an owner. And then I love the reference to real. You got to deal with the reality of the situation. And a lot of people don't deal with the reality. There's one word that I don't believe we've used, but I want to connect it to intent. People have great intentions for the most part. People, I intend to start a business, but exactly and I love, Donald, the way you described it, pen to paper. It's the discipline to put pen to paper, that discipline with the intentionality, with the ownership mentality, with dealing with reality, that really begins to manifest what's possible. And I love that you respectfully both, and Todd likewise as an entrepreneur out there, amongst others, are doing this and making it real and making it accessible to others in terms of the wisdom that you're offering. So tremendous contribution on all your parts.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a space, right? All of us in our world, have our roles and our positions to play. Would I recommend entrepreneurship for everyone? No, I wouldn't. I think those who have the wherewithal and the true desire, I think they say, the entrepreneurial spirit, then they should definitely go forward and fly.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not, it's okay. Like, there's no shame in being an employee. Like, we need employees, like we need people to help support the work. So there is no higher or lower. It's just whatever role and position that you've been called to play it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. Hope, I really love the way you're just, again, back respectfully to your Hope, if you will, your name, because exactly to your point, if you make a decision to be an employee, it's okay, but don't let that decision be dominated by your fear. Because if it's dominated by your fear, then you're doing yourself an injustice and doing society an injustice. So I really, really appreciate what you're sharing. So I know we're taking a significant amount of your time. I don't know if Todd, if you had more, I was going to ask if there's key messages that you'd like to leave us with, but I don't know if you had other thoughts, Todd, or at all.
No, that's great. I think it'd be good to hear any sort of parting ideas that you want to share with us, or maybe what's inspiring you right now, or what's giving you great hope in the world. Would be great to maybe end on that note.
I'll let you go first, Hope.
Okay. I'll tell you what's inspiring me. What's inspiring me is to see people step into their truth in this moment, and to really kind of, we went through a moment where everyone was caught in fear, and I really, what gives me hope is to see people stepping outside of their fear, and I'm starting to see people say, you know what, I might be afraid, but I'm going forth anyway. So I love the courage, and being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you're not going to have a lot of moments that are going to stare, the dickens out of you. But that doesn't stop you. So I would just say, for those who are on the fence, hey, grab a friend that you see that is moving forward and let it be your accountability partner, and just continue to, even if it's baby steps, right? Just keep walking towards it.
Very, very elegantly said. Donald, do you mind if I add one other thing before you share some of your parting thoughts, if you will?
Sure, go ahead.
Because Hope, you said it perfect. Respectfully, I could hug you right now through the mechanism here. I would love your commentary on both of your commentary, all three of your commentary on this. A lot of people talk about safety. We have to create safety and to overcome the fear. The reality is, and this has been a very, very key aspect from anti-fragility, you can't make the real world safe. You can help people gain the courage and the foundation to overcome their fear and deal with the reality. To try to fake it and make the world safe and create a safe environment, it's a delusion. And it's one of the delusions that, quite honestly, got us into the place that we are now and made us so fragile relative to COVID. So I love the way you're describing courage, because I think a lot of people miss that. Reality isn't going to be safe. We got to have the courage to confront the fear in the most respectful, intentional way.
Plan accordingly. As they say, cars are dangerous, but thankfully they made those little seat belts.
Yes.
So let's put on our seat belts and go forward.
So I definitely appreciate the reference to courage. I think that's very, very key. Thank you, Hope. Thank you, Hope. Donald, my friend, forgive me for jumping in there. I've got too much energy.
No. I think as far as what's inspiring, I think I go back to what I said earlier with everything that is kind of going on with the movement that we're currently, the moment we're living in, and really seeing those that are quiet or have been quiet in the past really stepping up to the plate to say, this is wrong, this is not right. That's truly awe-inspiring to see. Again, going back to seeing people have that courage. The other thing is I think a lot of times, as we like to say, wolf tickets. There's a lot of people out here that are just selling wolf tickets, going along with the bandwagon, and they don't really mean it. They just don't know any better. As I like to say, they're not woke. So I'm encouraged by that as well. And to your point, I think it's important that we find a safe space amongst ourselves. Create your own, as Hope and I say, we have our own little bubble that we create. We own a boat, so we go down to that every week, and not so much no more because it's into September now. But so all summer we've just been in our bubble on the water, and that's kind of our space to escape. And so it's one of those things, creating that, whether that's it used to be my bubble back in the day would be video games sitting up in the dorm room,
Yep.
So, you're just finding where that safe space is and to give yourself a break. And then as far as encouraging the entrepreneur, I like to, and one of my things personally is I like to set a personal goal. And usually that has to do with a man toy. And so whether that's, hey, I want this motorcycle, I want this car, I want this electronic gadget. And so I usually tell, hey, if you think about becoming an entrepreneur and you want to, to really get yourself going and get you motivated, set a goal. And that's what I've done throughout my life is I set a goal. Okay, I want this thing. And then I use that as my motivation for me to focus on doing what I'm daily task. Hey, as soon as we get this done and the business is successful, I can go buy that toy. So giving yourself, you got to play those games with yourself to help give you that motivation, that extra oomph. A lot of times that's just, it's enough for people to say, yes, I want to, take care of my family and make sure that they're all well taken care of. But, it's also, you got to have a little something else. Well, once I know that's taken, I also got that little nugget, that carrot that I can grab as well. And so having something that you really would enjoy, seeing the reaping of your rewards for all the hard work and keeping that goal in sight.
That's a wonderful way to put it. I totally relate, man. Like a lot of times I'll say all right, if I win this next client, I'm going to buy myself this toy, right?
There you go.
It's motivating. It really is. Yeah.
Well, I hope I respectfully to both of you and Todd likewise, I hope you're going to capture some of this wisdom in a future book that allows it even to penetrate the mindsets across the world even deeper and further. So really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us
It
today.
has been a pleasure speaking with all of you all
Thank you.
today.
Well, thank you.
Keep the movement going,
I
Si.
hope, and Donald and Todd, we're all in this together by all means. So thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a catalyzing conversation with Donald and Hope and my good friend Si. And we're glad you joined us here today. There are more catalyzing conversations coming up, so please check our Facebook page or YouTube. If you have not already, please follow us on Facebook on our page to get all the updates, as well as on YouTube, and be sure to click the bell so you get every notification of upcoming streams and YouTubes that we're putting up there. And as always, we appreciate your ideas and comments and encouragement as we embark on this journey together to catalyze the future. You can sign up for the event at catalyzingthefuture.com, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.